can you learn from a man that has a $6.3 million property portfolio, that has $270,000 of income, and is at a 50% loan to value ratio? I reckon quite a lot. Not only can you learn from him, this man has been learning from other people. He runs Pizza and Property. His name's Todd Sloan. He is the host of Pizza and Property podcast and an all-round bloody great guy, to be honest. We go through a whole heap. We talk about how he got his portfolio started, how he's continued to scale this, and he hasn't even, we talk about this whole unlimited borrowing capacity thing with trust, and he doesn't even, the last purchase he bought, the last one property is in a trust. So he hasn't come from wealth. He's created this. He's let time and leverage do its thing. And there's a lot of insights that you guys can gain from this. Anyone that's starting out in their property portfolio journey, I think you're going to get a little bit of wisdom in this. And people that are quite far along the journey can start to see how things will start to shape out as well. Hey everyone, my name is Joe Tucker, and together with Jeff Miles, we created Oz Property Investors. It's Australia's largest property investment community. We've got 3,000 members. Each week we interview top property experts, and Todd Sloan is one such expert. Let's dive into this lesson and let's all learn. Let's get on it.
We are live on Oz Property Investors. We bring the big names and we have the big fun. Todd, it is a big session. I said the $6 million man, he's come on the show, and it's inflation. I know there's a $1 million man, but that was like 45 years ago, exactly to the day. And it has been 4 years almost to the day we first had you on. We're going to talk about unpacking the journey, because you have somehow managed to sneak up on that portfolio. Last time I thought you were just 4 million, which is huge. But we were saying you only did this initially on a salary of under 150,000, not much under 150, just a scary under. But it is going to be unpacking the investor story. So how you going, Mr. Pizza and Property, Mr. Renovator of the Year, whatever title you need to take, you can have it, Todd. How you going? Has he frozen?
I can still hear you, Joe.
You still hear me? You didn't hear him? He said some nice things. He said, "Oh shit, I'm now. What the fuck is going on here?"
No, we're good. We're back. So Todd, I was just asking how you're going.
Good, man. Very good. Pumped to have a chat with you guys today. It's been too long.
I know it has been a while. And Joe, before we get into it's nice to ask people how you going, Joe. What's happening, man? You taking over the world with chatbots, I hear?
No, I mean AI is very. I was thinking we need to have a session about AI. Have you actually? So Todd Sloan, he runs Pizza and Property, one of the most interesting podcasts about property investing, and massive on YouTube, and incredibly well edited and produced. Yeah, I think AI is getting incredibly interesting. It's not really coming too much into the property space, but it is coming into literally just before this call, I spent 20 minutes creating a chat bot that reviews contracts. Obviously, I'm not, we get conveyancers to do it, all that stuff, but it gives the high level insights. But in 30 minutes, I created something that reviews it, gives me a prompt, tells me the good, tells me the bad, tells me things to be aware of, and under 30 minutes. It's incredible. So anyway, that's what Jeff was talking about just before. He's like, why are you so stressed, Joe? I'm like, no, I'm focused on the tech thing. Anyway, sorry, this is all about you, Toddy. Thank you for jumping on, mate. 4 years. I'm pumped to have you. How are you, Jeff? More importantly.
I'm really good and really fantastic. Like back-to-back nights with all the mentoring, all that sort of fun jazz. But that's like, and I'm actually taking a night off Friday night, perhaps. But there's a big thing coming all over the internet, maybe, and it's not contract reviewers, but no, a big session here. We are going to be unpacking Todd's journey, because you don't often reveal all the information. We're not revealing all the information, no addresses and but you don't often talk about how you got to that stage. And I think that's very insightful, because we were talking before this. You bought your first property, I think, what was it, in 2006 or 7, was it, roughly around that time, in the Adelaide unit? The first one.
First one's the classic story of what went wrong. 2007, bought a unit that may as well have been off the plan. It was like 3 or 4 years old. Paid $281,000 for it. Held it for almost exactly 10 years, and sold it for like 330 something, I think it was. So like technically didn't lose money, but not exactly a great
opportunity cost, right?
And that's where the huge loss came in. And it wasn't until 2017, so late 2017 is when I went, okay, let's do this properly and actually commit.
Yeah, and that's
Well,
around roughly the time you started Pizza and Property, roughly around the same time with your friends.
2019 with my mate Jack, and him and I did it together for probably about 30 odd episodes. But then, I think he needed a bit more family time, and then I just kept going. And now I don't even know how many episodes we got now. It's like 600,
2000.
700,
Wow.
not 2000, but it's at least kind of 650, 700, something like that.
Well, that's why I wanted to get you on, is because you literally have sat in at 600 property expert, if people from all walks of life doing all interesting things. And not only, like, what I love about these podcasts that not the guests don't get to see is that you get the recording hits stop and you literally have this person in front of you for half an hour, 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. You grab beers, you grab lunch. You can soak up so much value from the people that you interact with. And that's why I wanted to get you on, because you don't talk about your portfolio too much. I mean, you did just do an amazing renovation update. Everyone should go ahead and watch that because it's awesome. It's a deal that you did in Victoria. But you have a $6.4 million portfolio that you've just kind of been quietly building in the background that is $270,000 worth of income, and then on a 50% LVR. Like, they are ridiculous numbers. So you've definitely been paying attention to the people that you're listening to and talking with on these podcasts.
Yeah, man. Like I say it all the time in episodes. Like when they talk, I listen, and there's so many other people that do as well. Like it's a wonderful feeling to actually get texts from people that say like how much, like, it's actually, this is genuinely no setup. Like, this is actually a text like from someone right now. So sorry, Raul, if I shouldn't have shown that. Going like, yeah, not mere words, my friend. Pizza and Property helped me, and like it's really, really cool. That's
crazy.
That you actually get that kind of feedback from people all the time. But it's stuff that I personally take on board. And I actually remember it was someone, I won't say who it was, a younger guest that I had on. We went out for lunch afterwards. And he was like, "So do you get into property as well?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. Like, I invest." He's like, "Oh, do you?" And he was like just blown away, like, because I don't really talk about it much, because one of my big focuses is when I have a guest on, it's about them and it's about the content and it's about like, how do we make this as good as it can, not about me sort of one-upping or like sort of big noting. So yeah, I don't really talk about it for that reason. It's not because I don't want to, but it's because the focus is clearly the episode, the content.
Yeah. For me, before we get into too far into unpack the covers, I wanted to, for those who haven't seen Todd on Pizza and Property, and you'd be surprised if you haven't, I'd be very surprised. You are a humble, not humble, but you are humble, very humble, former award-winning real estate agent, and the book you wrote as well. I just love that book that you wrote. You're a professional, I suppose, content creator, podcaster, but property investor as well. So Pizza and Property is what people need to check out. Along with ours, I'd sort of rank them. I mean, your production is out of this world. But as Joe said, it was $6.3 million, though. 6.4, 6.3. Let's not argue 100,000 between friends. And about that sort of 270K gross rental income, it says, 2 titles owned free, and about that 50% LVR. So, Todd, I think that's, I suppose the question on everybody's lips is how you kind of were able to sort of do that, and is that still doable today? But we'll save that for later, of course. I want to know what you've actually. Yes, you had the reno in Melbourne, which is absolutely fantastic. Like, I think that's amazing you did that. But what else have you sort of been up to since we last spoke to?
A lot of it is
no. It was about a year and a half ago, roughly. We've had him on since. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
okay. So a year and a half ago. So once we got, what was it, to 10 rentals. So I think it was like 6 titles, because one's like block of units, and that was enough to go, okay, cool. I can actually walk away from being an agent. And Pizza and Property at that stage was probably getting about sort of 10,000 like downloads a month, or like listens a month. So it's like super cool, really pumped. And it's like, okay, let's chase this. And then it started sort of turning into more of a business. We had like brand partnerships and advertisers, and it was like, cool. And then started making other people's podcasts as well. But then as we started doing that, naturally, when you leave a job, PAYG, you kind of disappear from the banks for a little while. So just kept saving money, knowing that it's just a matter of time until we can start buying again. And that's what we did like late last year. I think it was literally just, I think, a week before Fred was born that we ended up securing the Melbourne one. It was like we could finally like get finance and go again. So there was that, pretty much a 2-year gap between actually like jumping out of being a real estate agent and being a business owner.
And I love that you're actually able to do, because you revealed to us before this, and you're comfortable sharing that. I think it was just in the 140s. You didn't earn more than that to build. So I think you got to around $4 million or just over to get to that sort of over $4 million portfolio.
So my wage, like when I started it, I was like, and this was my real balance and my biggest trouble. And it's actually Sean Muxlow is a local agent that I actually owe a lot to. He was one of the people that actually helped me understand how to list property. When you're an agent, selling the property, don't get me wrong, there is an absolute skill set. You want to make sure you choose the right agent. The skill set that a lot of people don't realize is the actual selling yourself part and being able to sit down with someone. You think about this when you've never done it and you're like, hi, Mr. or Mrs. Vendor. By the way, do you mind trusting me with your life savings? Like to get you the best, it's kind of a big decision for them. And for me, that I wasn't too good at that to begin with, because first I was like too passive and then I was too over the top. And Shawnee was the one that kind of helped me like just find this middle ground of like essentially go, what are your problems? Okay, cool. Here's how we solve them. And you actually just bring a real genuinity to it of what's the issue. Okay, let me walk you through the solution. And when you actually know the solution and you're actually good at the solution, that's when things start to really roll. So the first few years, things did not roll for me because I was still finding my feet. And I was literally making my retainer, which was $38,000 a year. And then I think the next year I made just under 50. Then I made 60 something. Then it jumped up to 90. And then I think I made 110. And then the last couple of years were around that 130, 140 sort of mark, something along those lines. So it's like, it definitely got better. But I was never on 200-300 grand or anything like spectacular like that before I actually left my job.
Incredible. Well, I mean, that just go like, so how much of a portfolio did you get to on that salary? Like, where did it end before? Because I mean, this is one of the things, right? Like that we hear all the time from from folks, and you know, you can say they're negative Nellies, but you know, some maybe I'm not negative, maybe I'm just realistic. But like normal income, you were able to still build a portfolio to how many millions?
I don't know what it was at that stage. When I actually left, I reckon it was probably sitting more around that kind of high threes, because the values have also increased. Like if we just take one for example, like the unit, the one that I did where we did the episode with Darren Palmer from the block, and he kind of went through the reno. When I left like real estate, I bought that for 225. I think I got that reval for 340 something along those lines. So like the reno cost me like 20 grand, like because I was very hands-on at that stage, not doing stuff I shouldn't be doing. Like I still had plumbers, sparkies, waterproofing. That's done by people that should be doing it. But Bianca and I are doing all the rest of it. Then went from the 340 at that stage to then it went to 450, and it just got vowed not long ago for I think it was 550. So it's like there's a lot of market growth in a lot of this as well. So when you say it's like what's changed, part of it is like Adelaide has just killed it for our Adelaide side of things, but then so's Queensland. Like our Brisbane property has done so well. The Cairns one's done well. Like it's so much of it has also just been that time in the market. So for people that say like you can't do it the same way, they're right, you can't do it the same way. But then if you rewind 20 years ago, the way that it was done 20 years ago, when you were buying houses for $200,000 in Western Sydney, well, it's not done that way anymore either. But it doesn't mean you can't make money. It's just there's a certain things that change along the way.
And the other thing about that 20 years ago, before they changed the tighten up the lending standards, you could literally, if you could fog up a mirror, you could release that equity and then sort of leapfrog into the next kind of property. So
Yeah.
the people who had it then would have had an easier time if they had the equity. But then if you post 2015, 2016, it was harder to then get that finance. But then you were probably a beneficiary of some markets that were still relatively affordable, kind of that 2 to 3 to 350. And as long as you get the finance, you would have almost doubled your money in 3 to 5 years. So it's an interesting perspective there, Todd.
Yeah, man, and it's like it's not relative now, and this is going to be the thing, and this is how it always works. It's like it's not relative to wages now, but it will be. Like wage growth will happen. Like earning $100,000 a year 10 years ago used to be like, cool, you're on 6 figures, 100K. Now it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's like reasonable. That's okay. No one's like jumping out of their skin. I know people that are paying like their PAs $120,000 a year. Like, but if you're on 200,000, that's a bit more like, okay, cool. That's pretty good. You're on 200,000. And I can't help but think that it's like, it's your wages really just catch up a lot slower than what the prices do, what the property prices actually are. So if we keep looking forward and forward and forward, is there an unaffordability gap right now in certain locations? Yes, there is. Is it everywhere? No, it's not. But will those gaps change over time? 100%. They always do. Mm-hmm. And it's about understanding how to look for those gaps, how to capitalize on them, use the skill sets, times, and resources that you've got to be able to actually build the portfolio. But it's like it changes. That's the whole thing, keeping up with the change.
Yeah, it was also like you were saying 10 years ago it was this, 5 years, 20 years ago it was this. A year ago or 2 years ago, it was completely different as well. So if we start to look at where we're starting to see the market shift, South Australia, let's talk about South Australia, Todd. You picked up a little unit. I remember I went down and visited it physically with you, and I think you were in the middle of a reno or just wrapped the reno up.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Showed me like that was a direct replica of this one. And then we went through a burnt out drug house, and it was very scary in some dodgy place. But in South Australia, we were buying properties back then for $500,000 that had a 6% yield. And that was every second property, 500,000, 400,000, 6%, 6.2, 5.8% yields. But now, if you want capital growth and you want 5% yields, it's very, very challenging. It's very challenging to go get that. So right now the market is shifting to where the growth is now at a lower yield. So you have to be able to afford the negative cash flow that you're going to be able to afford. Don't get me wrong. There are some markets that still have growth left in them at a higher yield, but it's becoming very, very challenging to get high growth, high yielding properties because these markets have already moved 70, 80, 90% in the past couple of years. So, if a market, I say it all the time, like a market's not going to go from 400 to 800,000 and then go from 800,000 to double again to 1.6 mil. It's going to be very, very hard to do that. But it's just trying to, the system's the same. Buy investment grade properties in investment grade locations, but the way that it's done is slightly different.
Well, and I think this is it, like, because it works in cycles. Like we like to talk about property going up like 5, 6, 7% per annum, and just this like kind of little, but it doesn't go like that. It kind of goes like that, and then whoosh, and then it might go there for a whoop, and then it's like Perth. Perth was you need the sound effects, otherwise it doesn't work. Like Perth was a terrible investment from like, what was that, like 2011 to 2021. Yeah. It was like, wow, this isn't good. Yeah. Pretty similar for Adelaide, similar for Brisbane. And again, like certain pockets of it. Like, is it then going to be the best investment moving forward forever? Again, they're all created slightly differently, but like potentially not. But the other thing to remember though is property is a longer term game. And if you're buying into a market that's got some good upside for capital growth, fantastic. That is where you want to be. But very much like what you're saying, Joe, not 100% at the expense of your yield. Because when you ask, how have I done this? I've balanced the two. If all you do is focus on capital growth, you better get a high paying job. Okay, it's as simple as that. And if all you do is focus on yield, well, then you better start learning how to like really force in some equity growth there, because otherwise, like, or just be a really diligent saver, because otherwise you're not getting the deposits. There's this balance of both of them, and whether that's done through maybe pigeon pairing assets. Maybe you were to go in a location in Melbourne that you think has got a really high chance of capital growth, but it's only like a 4.5% yield, something like lower. Or maybe you end up and then buying somewhere that's got a higher yield to it, maybe a Townsville. And sometimes you've also got to look at the net yield versus the gross yield on stuff like that as well. I've talked about this plenty of times before in Pizza and Property. Like some of the outgoings that we've got in Queensland properties, they still work, but when you look behind the scenes, it's like, wait a second, that's a lot of money going out, and insurance costs and all that kind of jazz. Sorry, it looks like you wanted to ask something then, Jeff.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, you sort of answered the question, but what are the big, because you got 2 unit blocks, don't you, from memory, or have you got 3 now?
No, one.
Only one. Okay, I thought you had 2. But yeah, because there was maybe another one that you're going to acquire, but you didn't end up acquiring it, or am I missing somebody else's story?
No. So we're actually looking at getting another one now. So
no way. Okay, there you go. It's like So on that though, are the key costs that you find in these assets that are probably high yielding, which essentially most of the time are either regional or unit block? Is it the insurance costs, and what else are you finding that's sort of stripping back the gross from the net yield?
So it is very much the insurance cost, and in some cases council rates. Like there's a few councils that I don't know what gold the sidewalks are paved in, but they seem to have some very large upkeep. The insurance I kind of get though, like especially if you're looking far north Queensland, like there is definite like different flooding risks, cyclone. Like it kind of makes sense if you're an insurer, you'd be wanting to collect some pretty significant premiums there because you have a lot more payouts.
Yeah, nice. I wanted to ask this question.
And that has to come into that needs to come into the number crunching that you guys do. And we have the deal crunch calculator on, oh gosh, where do we have that now? I think it's on the Level Up site. And that allows you to crunch the stamp duty automated throughout each state. And then also the gross yield, which is the purchase price, rent times. Oh, look, perfect. There you go. We'll pop that in the comments. But yeah, it's what have you left with cash wise at the end of the day. Now, it is going to be a negative number. Like if your interest rate is 6.5%, then that means the yield of the property needs to cover property costs as well. So it'll be more like a 7.2 to actually be cash flow neutral. Sorry, Jeff, you're going to bring up a comment?
Yeah, I was. And then Ricky, a big supporter of, and he's like your probably number one or number 2. I mean, who knows? Well, I won't get into comparing who's the biggest supporter of P&P. When he started off, what particular strategy did you use? Was there even a strategy? Because I know you bought the unit, and then was it anything in particular you were aiming to buy? Like, what did that? Because you bought the unit, but was there a strategy with that? Was it a reno? Was it literally? It was about a girl from memory.
So I don't really look at that as the start. Like it technically is because it's a purchase of a property, but you're right. It was actually impressing a girl. Like I was an idiot. I was 21 years old. Like it was just, I always fantasized about living in this particular building. So much so that like I would be on drunken nights out when I was like 18, 19 years old. And I would actually be like, see you guys, I'm going home. And I'd pretend to walk into this because it was a hotel as well. And it was like a laugh. I swear there's probably a little bit of like serendipitous, like, I don't know, laws of attraction that came to meet with that, because then I did end up living in that building for 7 years and owning it for almost 10. I rented it out for about 3. And that's technically the first purchase, but it's not the first investment. Like it's the first investment. That was the one that I got out regional. And it wasn't because I wanted to do it. It was because I was earning hardly anything. And that was my option. It was basically, don't invest or invest out here and get something you can add value to. So as far as strategy, value add and high yield, simply because I didn't have much money. It was as simple as that.
Yeah, well, because this is the thing, when you are going out to more of these high yielding regional areas, you kind of understand, like, I don't know if you understood at the time, but you saw that you didn't actually get the capital growth that you needed to push on the portfolio. So like if you are going out to these super high cash flow areas and like it has to be done because you can't afford, and that's absolutely fine, right? The goal here is to buy the best property in the best location at the best price for your buyer brief, for what you specifically need. And sometimes I need a 7% yield, but I can't buy property. Well, what are you going to do? Not buy property? Or are you going to go find something that has a 7% yield? But you utilize the strategy to then build the equity organically into it so that, okay, this market's not going to grow. I imagine you kind of want it to grow, but I don't see it growing as much as it could. Crazy as, you were buying in anywhere in South Australia at the time, that would have gone crazier. But yeah, you can then choose the force the value through that renovation, subdivision, granny flat, development, or whatever it was. I think it was a renovation, was it? What did it look like, that first one?
That first one was a reno. That first one was a house that we still don't know how old it was, because it got trucked in and then just like dropped. No services, no power, no water, no sewer, no anything. So it was kind of my introduction to not developing, but kind of getting a little taste of like all this kind of stuff. And I spent $30,000 or something on it. And I got it for a song. Like out there, it's in like Port Pirie, and Port Pirie is basically, the median house price then was like 230 something. So it was like, it was already so low. And then I ended up picking this up for, I think, $62,000. And then got it revalued for like 125. So we're not talking big dollars, but it was like, and this is the thing that I think I want everyone to really take away with this, is like, it was enough to get to the next one. Like, don't look at like a profit and go, oh, but it's not exactly 20%. That's what everyone says I need to hit, or it's not like $500,000. That's what I really. It's like, does it move you forward? And then if that next one that you choose, does that move you forward? And if you just keep with this mindset, before you know it, like a few years pass, you look back and you're like, holy crap, like I've moved forward quite a lot. Whereas before, I used to just have this analysis paralysis and nothing was ever quite good enough. And I'd sit on the fence. I wouldn't make decisions. And this was just this time of just jump in, just make it happen. And then when we did.
Was it reading property? Was it reading property podcast, property magazines? Because I think this was probably mid 2010s at this stage. Was it roughly
2017?
2017, or was it? Were there many podcasts you listened to at that stage? Like, what gave you the inspirational motivation, or is it just purely your own mindset that changed?
No, it was. See, this is the thing, man. Like, I've actually been interested in property for such a long time. Like, I bought when I went to the mines, and there's a frustration piece, and some people can probably relate to this. Like, earning decent money in your earlier years, but just like what's the saying? You can't put an old head on young shoulders. Like, and there's a few young guns out there right now that have an older head on young shoulders, and they're going to do incredibly well.
Bill Childs, one of those, yeah.
Yeah, Bill, absolutely. Like
Ali as well.
I wasn't one of them though. And so when I went to the mines, I remember thinking I was though. And this was the dangerous. I was that guy that read everything, that listened to everything that he could, but never did anything. Like I just had a permanent analysis paralysis. Like Steve McKnight's book, and I was actually chatting on the phone with Steve just yesterday, and his was actually the first book I picked up on property, and I couldn't believe it because it was about positively geared properties. And I was like, wait a second. So someone will pay the rent for the house and then more than it costs you to own the house. And I was like, it's like that moment in Aladdin where it's like a whole new world. Like, it's like, it was just insane. And my mind was blown, and I was hooked. And I started reading. I've even got some of the actually like this is like Donald Trump before he was Donald Trump now. Why we want you to be rich with Robert Kiyosaki. And I would sit there in my camera and I'd devour all this stuff, and I'd listen to all of it, and I'd do nothing. I'd just sit on it, and I'd tell everyone though. I used to give financial advice to every other like driller. I was the offsider that they wanted so they could learn about money. I had no idea what I was talking about. I used to read books and do nothing. And then it wasn't until like the kicking point for me, and this is not going to be relatable for anyone, but was when I walked from Adelaide to Melbourne. Okay, that was the thing, because I was the gunner guy. I was constantly gonna do this, and that was like that. I don't care what happens. I'm doing this, and I did a whole bunch of injuries. I've never felt pain like that before in my life. Like, they were literally scraping raw skin off of my feet. The blisters got so bad with it. but I did it. And that was one of the things that changed for me, that it was realizing that the difference between knowing and doing are vastly different. And like all of us know how to walk to Melbourne. Every single one of us listening right now knows how to do it, but none of us are actually going to do it. If you want to chat with me, a few people have, I can talk you to how it works, but I don't recommend it. It's quite
Talk you
painful.
out of it.
Yeah. but it's that doing piece. And whilst that's an extreme, it helped me actually use that mindset of really implementing the doing on things. And it was ever since that it really changed for me to start putting all of this knowledge into action and realizing it's the missing piece.
Wow. It's like a piece of
Action was the missing piece.
Yeah. Because I've often struggled with that in the past as well. Do you find that when you're doing these?
Sorry, bro, I actually lost you for about 5 seconds then. Can you say that again?
What I was saying, I was saying something profound. But interestingly, when you say I've often struggled with the analysis paralysis and inactivity. Do you find though when you start to do the action, you just feel like you're not ready, but you keep going anyway? Like, how do you kind of overcome, or you're doing it and you're like, shit, I'm not ready, but I'm going to do it and it'll work out for me? Is that kind of your mindset now?
Yeah, kind of. So you've got to think of what the worst case scenario is first, and if you're comfortable with that. And if you're not comfortable with that, then the next step is to really think about, well, what can I put in place to mitigate that risk, to make it as small as possible? You kind of keep looking at that until you do get comfortable with it. So it's like bungee jumping or skydiving. Like they all look insane, but until you actually start understanding how they work, and you're like, oh, this happens, and then this happens. Like skydiving. I skydived for a little while. Certainly not. I got like 28 jumps. I got my A license. So I can do it by myself. But I remember the first time I saw it, it was like explaining how it worked. And like, just to talk about one of the safety features, there's this thing called an AAD, which has to get serviced every 2 years. It stands for Automatic Activation Device. If you're below 750 feet falling.
Oh, spicy. He's coming back.
Oh, well, what did you last hear? Sorry, I think we lost you.
Yeah. So we got the AAD. It's going to.
There you go. Basically, if you're falling below a certain altitude at a certain speed, like faster than a certain speed, it just automatically pops the chute for you. Okay, so already, like, and again, I'm not trying to talk anyone into skydiving.
You're all good.
But that's a safety feature that you're like, oh, okay. Well, when you understand that, you feel a bit better about it. Property is no different. You start looking into it and you're like, oh, but what happens if the tenant doesn't pay the rent? You're like, okay, well, do you have a savings buffer? Do you have landlord insurance? Do you have you start sort of walking through these things until you go, oh, yeah, okay, no, I'm good. Like, let's move forward.
And I'm really buying with that, because so many people just don't do something because they're afraid of what the worst case scenario, like starting a business or doing anything that requires time, effort, and energy. It's like, well, if you're in a job, like you're already probably living your worst case scenario. Like, what could you go back to that job? So, well, no, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe you love your job. If you love your job,
Mr. Employed people.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that, but yeah, that's the way I think about it, because I'm often like, shit, what am I doing here? But no,
it's interesting for me. For me, it comes down to the numbers, because I went skydiving in Las Vegas, and I was bricking it on the way over there. And then we got to the skydiver man. I was like, "Can you just talk me through the numbers?" He's like, "I've done about 10,500 jumps, and the only problem that I've had personally, is that someone broke their back." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's not very good." And he's like, because he put his feet down too early. And I'm like, so that's the only injury. And then one woman broke her ankle because she did the same thing. And I'm like, 10,000 jumps, I'm one of them. I think I'm going to be all right. That's enough of me to work the numbers out. And it's the same with property. It's the same with starting a business, Jeff. Like what you said. Like, one of the big things for me is like, I'm earning $120,000. I take a risk. I've got X amount of savings that is going to be a buffer. I take a risk, and worst case scenario, I just get my old job back. hey, boss, didn't work out. I'm with you for the rest of my life anyway. So I thought I'd just try something. It didn't work. Like you can literally just go back to what you're doing right now.
At the Springfield power plant that says, Springfield owns me. Springfield power plant owns my life or something. The Homer sign. You guys remember that episode?
I don't. No, I recently
you'll have to speak up
to the Disney Plus channel for this very reason, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a fantastic question that came up. What is something new that you learnt from your guests on your potty?
An amazing amount. Can one of you guys kind of sharpen that up to give me some more focus to it? Because otherwise there's like 1,000 answers.
Could you say
I'm more interested in the beginner, Todd. When you started out, what was the light bulb, like a guest that was like, oh shit, you can do this, and this is how you do it, and this is what it looks like one of the core guests that you got that was of value and what you learned from them. And then I would love to hear what you've recently learned that was like, oh, wow, okay. Like, because you hear the same, it is hard sometimes when you're creating content like in the property space, because you hear a lot of the same thing over and over again. If I hear the word unlimited borrowing capacity one more time, I'm going to lose my shit. But apparently you can do unlimited borrowing capacity if people know. But there are points where you're just like, whoa, let's stop and pause. I actually need to think this through. So from an old perspective, what are some of your older guests that gave you some leg up?
I think one of the first, and this is kind of a property investing thing and kind of not at the same time. And when I say that, I mean, it's more so for people like myself that are a bit more active with it. So if you're a bit more of a passive investor and you just want to kind of buy and walk away, it's not as applicable, but it's like, it kind of boils down to one of those sayings of don't be upset with the results you didn't get from the work that you didn't do. And he kind of went on to say, I genuinely can't remember. I'm trying to think of whose name it was, like who actually said it. But then they went on to basically talk about if you want to create $1 million worth of equity, like have you created $1 million worth of value? And that's one of the things that really got me to thinking of, how can I actually maximize that value creation? What are the things? And it's one of the things that got me like really obsessed with budget controls, with understanding that data of the top end and the bottom end when it comes to looking at projects. Because when I was an agent, that was something I used to see people mess up all the time. They'd be like, yeah, it's a renovator. It's like, just because it's a renovator doesn't mean you can actually make money out of renovating it, or it doesn't mean you can make money out of renovating it and holding it to grow your portfolio. Like the numbers actually need to add up. And a lot of that comes from the amount of value that you can actually add to the property. So that was probably a big one. Recently, I got to think about this because like there's so many. If I'm trying to actually like tier it as to one of the best, like Jeremy's always got light bulb moments. Like that guy is just like a bucket of wisdom walking around, and it just spills out of him. It's like, what bit of wisdom just fell out there? Just catch that, guys. But I think one of the things that he talks about is probably like the way debt recycling actually works. So I don't know why, but it's fundamentally simple. But for some reason, it is complex. Like you have no idea how many times, like we made an episode on it, that we wrote it on the whiteboard. Jeremy and I were doing this for probably 2 hours beforehand, using magnets, moving stuff around, going this and that, until it was like, okay, I get it now. And like debt recycling, if you've got a PPR, like, and you'd know about this, Jeff, you'd be all over from like the broking side of things. Like, it's like, it makes total sense, man. Like it really, really does. But you need to wrap your head around it. And I think now that I've got my head around it, I'm like, why haven't I been doing this for so much longer? And I think that's probably one of the more recent ones that was a big like aha moment that, yeah, I should have had earlier.
Yeah. I think listening to your podcast, Toddy, probably the biggest things I get from it is everyone has their own path to the place that they're going. It's just and you need to pick in, and any investor out listening to us now, whether you're starting off as a young 18-year-old, maybe you got a few pimples, hopefully not by the time you get to 18, or whether you're 50 and you haven't bought your first property, it's like, okay, well, great. What are the next steps I need to take? Because there's no point looking back in the rear vision mirror too much Like maybe consider the things that have gotten to you where you are, but think of, okay, what are the next 3 steps you need to take to make it happen? And whether that's, as you said, at the end of each of your podcasts, you say, what are the people who take their earbuds out? What action they need to take next? It's that sort of simpling it down rather than trying to middle curving it and overthinking it, and then which all of us have done. But that's my biggest insight from you. It's like there's no point comparing to somebody with 130 properties if you haven't got that. You need to compare yourself to yourself where you were a couple of years ago, and just keep taking action.
Do you find that you kind of do though a little bit like and I'd actually be interested to hear both of you guys on this. Is like the comparison side of things. Like I often think, okay, let me. I'm forming like several sentences in my head right now. Okay, so my dad, very hardworking man. I owe my work ethic to him. Okay, so grew up. He was every other weekend dad. Like mum and dad got divorced when I was like 3. But when I'd go over there, he'd work his normal job the whole week, and then on a Friday night, he'd finish work at 5, get straight into a cab at 6 p.m., work it until like 6 a.m., go to sleep, wake up at like 11, mow the lawns, get back in a cab. Did that for 18 years, literally 7 days a week. Like phenomenal work ethic. They've got literally like an investment property, so they're not like silly financially, but I definitely didn't learn investing from them. But he's happy. Like whenever I used to try and like spoil him and buy him like $180 tie or something like that if it was like a special occasion or birthday. He's like, Todd, I don't care. Or buy him fancy beers. He drinks West End Draft. He's like, I really appreciate it, Todd, but could you stop buying me like this weird German beer? Like just buy me a pack of West End Draft. Like I think what I'm getting at is there's this part of me that's like, I keep pushing, I keep growing, and I'm happy with things, but it's like, is that actually really the happiness thing? Being like super content with going down to the pub and being able to like just go like, cool, I'm good with this. But it's not a formula for success. I think the formula for like real growth, real success is having this constant balance between being happy with your life, but always being like, I can do more. I can achieve more. I want that little bit more. And I don't know if you boys are exactly the same, because you're both accomplished as well. And you both speak with very accomplished people on the show as well. But I kind of meet people that I would look at and compare to. Like you're saying, it's not a fair comparison. Some of the guys that are on the show, it's like they're worth 20, 30, $50 million. But then I'll talk to them and they're still like, oh yeah, but they'll be comparing themselves to people that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, is it almost like a little bit of a prerequisite if you really want to build success to kind of always have that little bit of chase, that little bit of it's never quite enough? I don't know what you guys think of that.
You want to go first?
I think it comes down to your potential, because for me, where I am at currently is I'm very, talk to me 10 years ago and where I am now, I would, good one. Okay, cool. Whoever that guy is. So very, very happy with where I am, but the amount of potential that I have and where I can go is beyond, like I can 10x where I am right now, I believe. So I feel like there's an uncomfortable, you've got to be content with what you've got, but you also need to have something driving you saying, well, are you reaching your full potential? Because I don't know what podcast is. It might be the Diary of the CEO. And he says that like where the worst person to meet is, you're on your deathbed. And actually it might be a Jewish.
It was a Doak clip. I think I know the one that you're talking about.
Yeah, like there's two people you meet: the person that you are now, and then the person that you had the potential to become. And for me, I'm always striving. Well, yeah, I think there's some Jewish thing where you go to heaven and then you meet that person that you could have had the potential to be, but you didn't push hard enough. You didn't do enough stuff to be able to get there. So I don't know. For me, I'm driven by a lot. So I just keep grinding and making it happen. So I don't know if that is the healthy answer, but also I understand that I'm not going to be doing this for the next 40 years at this intensity. So I think it's kind of like farmers. I say farmers like I know what I'm talking about when it comes to farming. But I did just finish, what's that show? The Clarkson's Farm. What I found, Clarkson's Farm is fantastic.
I want to watch.
It's got nothing to do. But Clarkson's Farm, they literally they have to work their ass off all night because it's time to harvest, and then there are periods when it's just raining and there's nothing you can do. And it's the same with property investing. There are points where you just have to, it's raining and you have to save your ass off and you have to build that deposit and you have to build that chunk up. But when the sun starts to pop out, you got to jump out there and start sowing the seeds, because you can't sow the seeds with the rain going. So boom, let's go sow the seeds. And then you got to wait for it to grow. You got to keep harvesting it. You got to keep feeding it and watering it and doing all of that stuff. And then when it's time to harvest, you just go as hard as you can. So it's the same with property. You renovate a property, you go there. My first property, the ceiling was missing. We just had no ceiling. So I slept on my $20 Kmart mattress, because that $60,000 that I had for the renovation was not going to cover that $20,000, $25,000 I had for the renovation was going to be $60,000. But if I did all the work, it would only be 20. So I did the hard yards, because I needed that equity to be able to then go again and then build another one. And now the equity pool is there to pull from to be able to then continue growing. So I don't know if that helps anybody, but that's just the way I kind of see that. I don't know, Jeff, is that a little long-winded? Fact that
a little bit. I mean, I suppose what you're saying is, Joe, you're going to keep going. You're going to make it happen. That's to summarize give the AI version. So I listened to a podcast recently with a real estate agent from Canberra called Josh Morrissey. It's Sammy G. So I'll give him a bit of plug, whatever. But we don't talk about that. But no, and I listened to that and I was like, because he's a dad of a couple of kids, and his upbringing, he grew up as a sort of single parent household in Canberra. And to me, sort of grew up with hardly any money. He had a couple of brothers, but what I sort of took from that, I really resonated with that story. Like, this guy does $1 billion, he's sold $1 billion worth of real estate, and there's not many real estate agents who have done that. And for me, listening to that story, I was just like, he says, well, just have to, it's like you're going to war. Like, you are actually every day you're going to sort of getting out there. So it's that mindset that stuff is going to happen. But for me, what drives, but at the same time, it's figuring out what it's all for. If you can't figure out what it's for, then you'll go to war, and you'll end up reaching the destination, and you'll have done it for what purpose? So if you don't have that purpose, you won't keep going. I think for me, it's a bit of a dual purpose. It's, yes, I love helping people out and seeing people succeed, which is amazing and fantastic and very satisfying, a little bit selfishly, but at the same time, it's also, the people who are around in my life, are they sort of watching my actions, and what are they thinking of the actions that I'm taking? And it's not even that I need to have an ego about it, but it's just, am I sort of setting a good example for the people in my life, hopefully?
The thing that's coming to mind, just like talking this through with you guys, is if you've maybe got a little bit of that in your personality, that bit of something's not quite right, something like it could be a little bit better, it's not enough, however you want to categorize it. You've got two choices. You can either sit on that and go, it's not enough, I'm not happy, it's not there, or you can use it as fuel, which is what, all three of us have done, and I could probably safely say every person any of us have ever interviewed has done. So turning that into a fuel that lights a fire for growth, to keep going, to get you to that. Because then even if you do get 5 years down the track and go, actually, this isn't quite what I wanted anymore, if you built an asset pool that you can then pivot, you can sell whatever, that's a hell of a better position to be in than just being the same kind of, I'm not sure, and having that unfulfilled in 5 years' time.
I've seen it with so many friends who I've just pushed them to say, okay, look, I know you may not love investing, but at the same time, and I'll sort of just push politely. Like, if somebody isn't the horse, you can lead a horse to water, but you can lead somebody to water, but you can't make them drink. So, and some people are taking the action, and regardless of whatever they do now, they'll be pretty comfortable with whatever they do.
Absolutely, because superannuation is like a lie as far as I'm concerned. Like, not super as a whole, it's real money, but it's just like you think your 300 grand by the time you retire is going to be anything. It's like you're effectively setting up the dole for yourself. Like, there needs to be extra action.
I want to take a left turn. Can Todd tell his story about riding a unicycle across the country? Did you do that, Todd?
Not a unicycle, a bike.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't.
Oh,
it's no good now.
It had a flat tire. That's what it was.
I accidentally have got 2 flat tires the whole time, and I rode a bike from Darwin to Adelaide in 14 days. I was doing like 200 and something kilometers a day, which was benefit of hindsight. Like that was a stupid idea because I'm not a cyclist. I don't ride. It was just coming off the coattails of Melbourne, and just with the attitude of like I can do anything, and so I just chose to ride a bike. And I remember thinking, because people do it all the time, but most people do it in like 8 weeks, 12 weeks. So they'll take a while. Like, so I was like, well, if people do it all the time, I need some kind of a point of difference so people will actually open up their wallets and donate to the charity, because I was doing it for Heart Kids. And so I was like, well, I'll just do it real quick. And so I started doing training rides and I did it in 14 days.
Yeah, just do it real quick. How much did you raise for the charity?
For memory, it was $21,000.
Incredible work.
Yeah.
As much as we had a nice little aside on the Todd's unicycle adventure, I feel like, can you guys see my screen? Yeah, I feel like we're talking a little bit like I feel like one thing that I remember when I was listening to podcasts and stuff, it's like, it's all right for you, Mr. $6 million portfolio. But I made this website out of AI to show people the difference between what compound interest can do for you in property investing, and what one investment property could actually do for you. If you had $150,000 deposit, you bought a $600,000 property that had a compound growth of 7% over 30 years, just from a capital growth perspective of like what one property could do to change your life. Because this is the crazy thing. So property in Australia has grown 7.2% on average over the past 30 years. So let's even drop the rate down to 6%. So just so we can even say, well, look, we're not going to do the same as what we've done for the last 30 years compounded. But if you look at a $600,000 purchase, in 10 years' time, that's $1 million. So 600,000 has gone to $1 million in just 10 years. Think about yourself 10 years ago. Like if you bought a property 10 years ago for 600,000, $1 million. In 20 years, that property is now $1.92 million. And in 30 years, that is $3,446,000. If we include debt and you're on principal and interest, you can literally just, the debt's paid off in 30 years, actually. It'll pay itself off in 30 years. You add more money to it. But like, that's incredible. In 10 years' time, you could have a property that's paid itself off. If you go ahead and buy two, just add one more property. Add it to use $100,000 of its own equity to then continue, then sell that next debt property down in 20 years' time, and you then can pay down the debt on the other one and then have, $2 million worth of equity. Like, you don't have to go for these silly numbers and start building $6 million property portfolios. Like, you just take a little bit of the money that you're saving. Because one of the things that I'm seeing out there in Australia right now is, I don't know what the word is, but it's, I can't achieve that. I don't give a shit anymore. I'm just going to spend my money. I'm just going to live, because there's no way I can buy a house in Sydney. There's no way I can buy a house in Brisbane. There's no way I can buy a house for myself in Melbourne. And I don't know. Are you guys seeing this out there? Like, where people are like, screw it. I'm just going to spend all my salary. I make 150 grand.
That's what the average person thinks. But so I'd love to hear Todd answer, and then we'll throw the first sponsor, because otherwise what do you reckon? What are you seeing, Todd?
I am obsessed with getting younger people on the show to try and disprove this as much as possible. I've got a young lad coming on in a couple of weeks' time. What was he, 21 years old, two rental properties already, and renting them out for phenomenal money. Got a few other sort of like mid-20s, early 20s, because it's not true. It's like the market's between your ears. And I think there's a few very I don't ever name and shame anyone, but have you guys seen that DOAC debate on, and it was Daniel Presley and that Gary's Economics dude.
Oh, what channel is it? Was this on SBS or ABC? Like what?
No, YouTube, Grandpa. Jesus.
I watch YouTube, but mate, I only watch either property or business sort of stuff. But
I got you, man. All right,
exactly what it was.
it's the diary of the CEO. But it's Gary's Economics, and at first when I started watching him, and I like saw him and Piers Morgan and I was like, cool, this guy's pretty switched on. This is good. And then the more I started listening to his message is basically you're screwed and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's not your fault. Everyone else's fault, but there's nothing you can do about it. You're screwed. But it's not your fault. It's okay. And it's like, that is so dangerous because I think that it takes away your agency and it takes away that control that you do actually have. And it gives you sympathy. It gives you empathy to a certain extent if he really believes what he's saying. But it doesn't give you control and agency, which I think is one of the most powerful things we all have, especially in this country. And it's that kind of narrative that I absolutely want to just dispel, because not only is it not true, but it's dangerous. You look back on 30 years' time, if you don't make those choices now, like it always gets me, like economists are never held to account. Like if us three right now say like, you will make X amount of dollars per year, like we can't do that, okay? Because it's not, you don't know 100%. You can go, hey, the likelihood is like really great here and this and that and that. Because that is the truth of it. There's no guarantees. But then you've got economists that will be like, the market is going to crash, like 50%, right? And it's that people sell their houses or people don't buy houses because of this. What is the opportunity cost? What is the tens, hundreds of millions of dollars people have lost by listening to people like this? That's why I think the narrative needs to switch.
The other dangerous thing as well is the, I suppose, the societal impact as well of people having that. And it is starting to creep in a little bit. It definitely is out there, as in you sort of start to see the haves and the have-nots. It was starting to become a little bit, and if you get more and more of that message and tone and content coming out there, then that's what the algorithm will feed what people want to see. And then, I mean, you sort of start to think, well, you play that out for 20 to 30 to 40 years. What does the Australia or whichever country you're living in look like? Deep question, not for how to build your own multi-million-dollar property portfolio, but that's okay. Should we go? I'm interested.
Yeah, let's go to our first sponsor, but I'm interested following the first one, the ad. I want to hear, like, Todd, what would you do? You are now born again, 21-year-old Todd, and you have, I don't know, how much would a 21-year-old have right now? Like, I don't know, 80,000?
20, 30,000, probably, roughly.
But you're talking about per year?
Do anything. No. I mean, like if you could buy a property, you're 20, 30, you've got $80,000, you don't have much of a borrowing capacity. Like, how would you go about getting started? Because, my goal is to own an owner-occupier in Sydney. I'm saving my butt off. I've just looked in the mirror. I can't do that. How about I build a portfolio? What the hell how should I do it? I've got let's just say 100 grand of savings and a borrowing capacity of 500K.
That's generous.
Which might be a little bit, it's a bit overstated probably, but yeah, let's chat to that after this.
And I've 100% got an answer for you.
Oh, Jeff, I wish there was 3 investing books that covered everything property.
Oh, Joe, there is. Steve has 3 books now.
That I do, guys. I've got 3 books now. You probably don't even have to follow this group anymore. Just kidding. You want to keep seeing and hearing from me, of course, so stay involved. But in all seriousness, if you want to get the full picture of investing, residential, commercial, and development, these 3 books have you covered for the fundamentals. For OzProp members, here's the best part. I'm giving these books to you for free. Just cover the postage and I'll send them right to your door. Go to policeyproperty.com or click the link below and get your copies today. You can also get all my spreadsheets, checklists, and resources free on my website. Happy reading, gang.
Here we go. So you played the short ad. He's got.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm back.
that was a short ad, by the way. But no,
Was
that's
the short
interesting.
ad.
And Ricky's even said in the comments. So I kind of like your son turns 16 years old, and as a gift, you give him 10,000. What information do you tell him along with the 10,000? I think that's a more interesting question because I mean I don't mind Joe's question, but to me I want to
Yeah,
hear
I want
somebody
my
who,
question answered. Screw your question, Ricky.
Yeah. But I don't know who has.
Ricky
I don't know
butting
many
in.
21-year-olds with
Let's
100K deposit.
Well, 80K, 60K. Like if you're starting again,
30 or 40.
like
Okay, well,
how do I go
strip
in?
it back to
Go into
$0
it?
deposit and nothing. So if you're
Okay.
you're 21 years old, the first thing I'd do is go and find the highest paying job that I can. If I'm not studying, next thing I'd do is I wouldn't study unless I had a passion for engineering, medicine, law, something that absolutely requires a degree. Otherwise, to me, there's so many people out there being, I don't want to say scammed because that's too harsh, but they have these huge HEX debts. There's this tiny little job pool market, and then they're paying them off. It completely kills their borrowing capacity, and in a lot of cases that they waste so much time. I'd be.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a zero. So we're starting it with zero.
But
Starting with zero.
I think we've just lost Joe.
No, we lost
Yeah,
you.
go
man.
again.
Oh, well, where'd you lose me from?
We're back. No, you just go. Just carry on. What just bleeped out a little bit.
This is really.
Oh, mate, this is it. See, Todd runs a podcast that's not live. Todd runs
It's
Pizza
just
and Property that's
not
not live. He gets to cut it out. It's all good. Sorry guys, this is just technically no, we're live, so we have to carry on.
Okay.
So
okay, so yeah, if it's something that you're absolutely passionate about, obviously totally different story. Okay, you want to be a surgeon, probably go to uni for that one.
do that.
But if not, like that to me is a sidestep. I'd find the highest paying job that I could, and I'd commit to it for as long as I.
Poor guy. Poor us.
It's annoying.
No, he'll come back, and then I'll.
You'll come back. You'll come back. I thought you said you paid for the internet. Did you pay the internet bill? That's what I'm asking. He's got all this money. He's got this whole portfolio, and he can't even pay the bloody internet bill.
Oh, he can't.
You're back,
Let me
mate.
give a
You're back.
reverse shout out. Don't sign up to Aussie Broadband. Fucking shit.
Oh no! Even the anti plug.
Given the anti-plug. Yes. Yeah, okay. So we're not going to uni because it's going out again.
It's all right,
We're
Joe.
not
You
going
and
to
I
uni.
ad lib until. No, I agree. It's Todd was saying that you go down something that you earn the highest money, not going to uni unless you're passionate about it.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense. Make a boatload of money. Hot spotting.
Turning on to
Nice.
hot spotting. Joe, so it's interesting.
Okay, so
I think you might be back permanently. I was having a chat with another dad tonight, and I was saying, look, I hope there's a pathway to become a trade, because to me, if that's something they're passionate about, but there's so much money to be made in trades, and so much scarcity. I mean, who knows what it looks like in 10 or 20 years. Todd, I think you're back now, man. So what would you do in the other scenario? Joe's question you've got, is it 150K deposit now, Joe? Has inflation struck?
No deposit. No, and what I'm talking about is the absolute start. You start with nothing. So then you'd save your money. Make sure that you stay away from BNPL. Anything that's buy now, pay later, do not do it. It's one of the fastest growing industries, and it's absolutely killing it. Like, you can now buy now, pay later Uber. If you ever think that's a good idea, slap yourself in the face, because it's not. Like, it's just go make a sandwich. Like, there's so many better things you can be doing with your money. The other thing I'd be doing is exactly what I did do in my 30s, which I should have done in my 20s. I moved back in with my parents. Now, if you don't have that option, maybe you've got a bad relationship with your parents, maybe you don't have parents, whatever it is, go into a rooming house, whatever, like share, not like a rooming house isn't like the 9 rooms or whatever.
Shared
Like,
accommodation.
share with friends. Like, lower the hell out of your expenses. If you want one of the simplest ways to absolutely like skyrocket your borrowing capacity, move back home. Like, it is night and day what you can actually borrow when you move back home. I wouldn't go and buy out a new car. Like, I still drive, like, we can more than afford whatever we want, actually, car wise. I still drive a $20,000 LDV. And the only reason I even got that is because I got a bad back and it was the highest car I could get, so I could get Fred in and out of it without bending my back. Like I'm going to keep doing that until we reach the goal, because the goal right now, as much as we're at around that 6 mil, that's not the goal. Like the goal is much bigger than that. And it's about the double on the double. That's when it's like, okay, cool. We're proper comfortable now. Then go and buy whatever you want for car and all the rest of it. But my whole point is sacrifice mode, because sacrifice is a slingshot. The harder you pull back on it, the harder it is. But the further it's going to fling you forward when you let go. That's what I'd be doing when I'm a young person, because right now, like the average house price to the average wage is out of whack. Okay. Again, normal numbers, like no one could dispute that. Back in the 50s, it was something like 3.5 times the average wage bought the average house. Now it's something like 9 to 12, depending on what state you live in. Okay. So that's different. We can complain about that and go, that's not fair, because to a certain extent, it's not fair. Or we can go, okay, well, these are the rules now, because there's also a ton of other things that we can do that our parents and grandparents never could do. Like that you think about the freedoms, the technologies, the everything else we do have available. It's, to me, it's worth the trade-off. I don't want to be around in the 50s. That would have sucked. Like it's about having like my internet doesn't even work now. Imagine what it would have been like in the 50s.
Man, Todd, I'm absolutely picking up what you're putting down. Like it's that simple and boring, inverted commas. I don't think it's boring at all. I think it's absolutely it's the type of thing that a lot of people need to sort of consider. I'm not saying you have to live the way your life. You can't necessarily do everything that Todd's saying, but you have to say, well, choose your hard, as you say, like hard now, or do you want hard in 10 or 15 years?
That's where it comes down to the intensity of really how much you're wanting to do. Because if you're wanting to build like a $5, $10, $20 million, like you're really wanting to scale something and you've got more of a modest income, you got to pull back on that sacrifice slingshot. But if you're wanting to do like what Joe was pointing out before, like buy a property, buy like 1 or 2 properties, you have to pull back that hard. There's only a little bit there. So it's also just about aligning the goals and on what you want, because maybe you're more like my dad and you're happy with a meal at the Woodcroft Tavern. And yeah, West End draft. Like, and if that's what makes you happy, it makes you happy.
Yeah. I love this question because this is the opportunity we get when you have a live podcast. People are watching and they're actually thinking about, so they're learning along the way. That's what I love about live, although the internet doesn't always work. Sometimes.
So what made you say this, Jeff? What made you say about the trades? Because the question is, what are some of the pathways to a lucrative career in trades for someone who loves property?
I wanted to throw that to Todd, because you don't want to get trade advice from me. If you gave me a hammer, I would probably knock myself out with it. You don't want me swinging a hammer around. But Todd is probably
trades as in like being a tradie, or the trades as in being like a property manager, a buyer's agent, a developer. Like,
yeah, MZM, could you clarify that? Is it about as in trade, as in tradies, like electrician, plumbers, or are you talking about like trades?
No, but I think you just, because you just said it, Jeff, you would say, I'd love to get my kids into the trades. Like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, I suppose for me, it's the opportunity to take up a skill because there's so many people doing university these days, and it's how many people doing marketing you actually need. So it's, yes, if you get to the top of that trade, then of that field, then fantastic. You'll be making 5 to 6, or how many YouTube content creators do you need? You need people who are actually so you need to
3.
identify
1, 2, 3,
and maybe a couple others. But where do you draw I suppose at the moment there's a significant shortage in that particular industry, because they're not bringing enough. They're building so much infrastructure in Victoria, in Queensland for the Olympics. So that's where there's potential, a lot of money that can be made quite quickly. And then you can repurpose that money, provided your let's see. So she's clarified and said physical to start with and then pivot to their own business. So it's physical. So the types of things I was talking about. What do you think about that, Todd?
So as far as what are some of the pathways to lucrative careers in trades for someone who loves property, I guess the pathways would really be getting an apprenticeship, which I'm certainly not going to profess to be an expert on. I don't know anything about getting apprenticeships, if that's easy done, a difficult thing these days, but that would be the place that I'd be starting. And if it is something that's really difficult these days, then I'd probably just do. I remember my dad gave me a tip when I was looking for jobs, like when I was a kid, and he was like, just rock up and sit there and like tell them you work for free. And like pretty soon someone will give you a job. Like if you're just like, hey, I'm here,
100.
like
Yeah,
I can now tell you as an employer, people did that to me,
crazy.
like they're hired.
Yeah, exactly. If I do a job post out, like Jeff was like, there's 1,000 people in marketing. If someone's in marketing now that thinks that they can help grow my channel brand, the Level Up course, reach out to me because I need someone in marketing to help me do that. So sorry to hijack this. We do know people, but if someone came to me and was like, hey, Joe, I just assessed your channel and I believe we should do this, and this to be able to grow X, Y, Z. What do you mean? So there's so many opportunities. There's so many opportunities out there. In terms of physical trades to then start your own business, I don't even think you don't even necessarily need a physical trade. Like what you need to do is get as close to the money as possible. And like one of the things is like deals. Like we have a friend who's a developer, and he has a guy that said, hey mate, you're a property developer. You're super smart. I will work for you for free. And he just goes to his office and he's like, what are you going to do? He's like, well, you're going to talk to people, aren't you? So you're going to be on the phone. So I just want to listen into those conversations. And then that builds, and then he throws something his way. Hey, can you fill out this thing? And hey, well, what's this, subdivision rules and that kind of stuff. Talk to me all about that. 6 months apprenticeship, now he earns a lot of money because he's finding deals. And, if you do a development that's successful, you can make $50,000, $100,000, $200,000. And that little kitty is going to start to build. And then you can run your own development, and then you can make $250,000 by yourself. I think there's so many ways, but you need to get close enough to the deals so that it's not just an offshoot. Like there are businesses that make money in property that I wouldn't ever touch. One of those businesses would be like conveyancing, for instance. They do a lot of conveyancing, but they do so much hard work there. Like they get $1,500 to $2,000. They do so much admin to get to that point. They do all this contract stuff, and then they only take such a tiny chunk. So go to the areas that are making the most amount of money, and then learn and add value to those, like a buyer's agent to help their marketing. If anyone is in marketing, come reach out to me if you're good.
Okay. So Ricky's asked about 500 questions. So thank you very much, Ricky. And I appreciate everybody asks questions.
See the questions again, Jeff. Where I can see
it's in Facebook. It's in Facebook.
Yeah. There's hundreds of comments through. But he's asked, recommend a book for a first-time investor to read. That's a tough one. There's so many. One or maybe two, if you're lucky.
Maybe two. Well, I have to say one of Steve Polisi's 3 amazing books.
Have you read?
Are we still doing this?
They're pretty good. Yeah.
I actually have read Steve's commercial. I have not read his others, but I have read his commercial book, and his commercial book was wonderful. But a first-time investor, it's a classic and it's oversaid. But Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I'm. My thoughts on Robert Kiyosaki have sort of shifted a little. I don't dislike the guy, but he's definitely changed a lot over the years. But that story, the reason I think it's so popular is because it's a story. He takes complex financial ideas and then just tells it through the lens of like an 8-year-old boy discovering the world. And it's why we can go like, oh, I get it. Like it's just such a penny drop moment. So as much as you might hear people say it all the time, if you haven't read it, read it. That's a big one. And am I just doing one or two? How many do you need?
Oh, yeah,
go another one. If
I want to know.
If you're thinking about another one, one of my favorites. I forgot what the title was. I'm gonna go find the title.
Must be a good one.
I was like, oh, I've got this book. It must be a good one. No, but it talks to exactly Think and Grow Rich. That's the one. And it's not really written that well. It's not actually a great book, but when I used to read hundreds of books, and I would do exactly what Todd did, and I pick up everything. But all I was looking for was one golden nugget. And the core premise of that book is add more value to people's lives than you take. And if you can go out there and create value, actually that's the best, the guy was like, what's the most, pathway to lucrative career. Find the people that add the most amount of value and help those people add more value. Like that's how you get value out of this world financially as well. Like if you can help someone, do a development, they're going to make $250,000 if they give you $500,000 and you can, double that, whatever, 500 and get 500, they'll give you $20,000 to do that because you're adding so much value to them. A conveyancer is just covering someone's ass, so they only get a small chunk of the pie. It's not actually guaranteeing or increasing. It's not a revenue generator. It's a protection. So they don't
Sales,
get paid as much
Joe.
as.
One word, sales.
Yeah.
If
sales.
you can work in sales, you make a lot of money.
Okay. What about you, Jeff? Have you got any kind of look at that. There you go.
Yeah, for me, definitely the Steve Ignite 0 to 130. To me, that's the OG of books. And yes, you can argue properties were $42,000. I think they were that much. To me, it's about those principles are timeless. And to Todd, it's like what works now is not going to work probably in 5 years' time or 2 or 3 years' time because things are shifting as rapidly. So it's reading, understanding those principles, those fundamental principles that despite whatever time you're in, like adding value, like figuring out where there's a mismatch in that market. Those are the things that I love understanding and really soaking in.
Absolutely. And another book that really changed my life, and I actually think I would have said it on potentially even last time you and I guys we all did this, but Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit. It's such a wonderful book. It's not James Clear's book. That's also good, but the reason I like this one is he just dives into it in such a different way. But there's this one section that really, really got me. And I've spoken about this a few times where he talks about like AA meetings, like Alcoholics Anonymous. And a real sort of overly simplified version is essentially the 12-step program does not work. Okay. But what the research found was it did, but it only worked in certain situations. And it worked in the situations where it was around a religious setting. And he was like, basically, he started investigating, what's the common denominator here? And it wasn't that religion was making it work, but it was the fact that the people that were participating in a religious setting all had that real power of belief. And I think that belief is so underrated because if it's to sum it all up, it's that Henry Ford saying, like, whether you believe you can or if you believe you can't, either way, you're right. And it's so true. He talks about that in the book and creating habits around it, that if you can start really creating positive habits that push you towards believing that what you want is really going to happen, you can make it happen. And I know I'm pushing on the woo-woo a little bit here, but there's real method to it and there's proof in it. Like you show me a super successful person that's a negative ass. Like most people that you meet, you might have the stereotypical, like, oh, that rich guy's a douche. But it's like most of the people that you and I, like we all have in our circle, they're positive, they're goal driven, they've got like a vision board of some sorts or some kind of like more like they're focused. They've got it and they've got that belief in themselves. And I got a lot of that from that book with Charles.
The habit loops.
Yeah, I love it. Anyone else in the comments, throw your favorite book and any key lessons that you learned from there. Any other key books that you've gotten value out of, Jeff?
There's too many to name. I must admit, I don't read a lot of books. I listen to a whole heap of podcasts and YouTubes, but there is not Uncle Zally, but it's that guy. What's his name? The Road Less Stupid, which kind of talks to the principles. It's Uncle's. I don't know. It's not. Yeah, but that's
not Uncle. It's I'll get you there. It is a fantastic book. So it's more about business, isn't it?
Keith Cunningham, the road less stupid. Which any of the books from Keith Cunningham, just the way he unpacks a scenario and a situation. And yes, he talks about doing property deals to a large degree, but also business deals. So it's the way to think about how to think. I love that one as well. I want to ask Toddy about his borrowing capacity, and we'll all do that. But we should throw it to our last sponsor, Joe, because let's bring it back and land the plane on some property kind of questions. So if you have property-related questions about Todd's... Sorry, man?
Pardon?
you still flying?
No, I haven't flown ages. The business has just been in the front seat. So
And the baby.
I've got
Yeah.
my little license photo next to me right now. That is, it's like this. Where is this?
Sorry to take this up.
Like what
You just-
aircraft?
Oh, there he is.
I like a good,
You
I
can
like a
fly,
good
you
photo.
can fly a plane. Are you going to fly the
Just
plane
before
and
we
jump
go-
out of it?
Just before we go
no,
to the
Oh, sorry, Jeff.
before we go to the ad, that's something that popped in my mind, and it works really well. If you figure out what people's goals are, and just because people love you taking an interest in them. So yes, if the more successful or the busier person, they probably not respond to you. But the thing I love doing is asking people what do they want to achieve, and they'll just they really have to think about it because they may not have thought about it. It's like, wow, you actually want to know about what I want to do. So if you want to be successful, figure that out, and then figure out how to get that person what they want. I'm not saying it'll, and it's a bit woo-woo. It's kind of the art of reciprocity. I said, yeah. So you got that, and then eventually you'll start to see there's patterns there, and it won't come back straight away, but in 5, 10, 15 years, it'll really come back. And don't do it for the sake of getting something in return, but simply just understand that. Be a person of value.
Yeah, I think that's actually your secret. That's actually your secret weapon, Jeff. Like you are so good at, and this is one thing, the way the internet works and emails work, you literally have direct access to anyone. If you just don't just randomly reach out and say, hey, should I, how do I do this? How do I do this? It's give value first. Like Jeff, you used to, when you were starting out, like when I first met you, you were like just randomly going coffees, randomly going for burgers and lunch, and just with these incredible people. I was like, how did you meet Steve McKnight? Oh yeah, we just blah, blah, blah. And how'd you meet this guy? And it just snowballed because you were curious about them and what they were doing. And they were like, oh, I'm so totally going to do this and do this crazy stuff. And people want to talk about the stuff that they're doing. So yeah, you can actually reach out to, Todd and Jeff.
I just love doing it now with a person on the street. Like somebody will come up to me and be like, "Oh yeah," or somebody you're chatting to at an event you go to, and they'll just be like, "Oh yeah." So because you're in the proximity, you like to learn about what people are up to. Be like,
okay. Reviewing contracts for people, from what I hear.
That story's going to get more and more legendary as it goes.
Yeah, I got an AI for that, so don't worry about it. Okay, so what are we doing? Let's crack on.
Level up.
Everywhere you look, someone else is making money in property except for you. Your mate, he just bought a house. It's already gone up $100,000. There's some bloke on Facebook, he's bragging about pulling in a 7% rental yield. Meanwhile, you're stuck scrolling real estate and domain, confused as hell, and having no idea about where to start. Or maybe you're that mate that's got $100,000 in equity. You have a few properties under your belt, but you feel stuck. You're unsure about how to scale without over-leveraging and not knowing what the next right move is. So why does it feel like everyone else has some kind of secret that you're missing out on? It's because they do. There's a reason some people keep stacking properties while others sit on the sidelines stacking excuses. There's a reason why some investors buy under market value while others pay too much. There's a reason why investors know the hot spots before there's any heat. And there's a reason that some people build $150,000 in passive income while others just spend years thinking about it. And it comes down to knowledge. And that's exactly why Jeff Miles and I, Joe Tucker, created the Level Up Property course to hand you the exact step-by-step process that we've used to buy over $100 million worth of property in today's market. We've built Australia's largest property investment community with over 80,000 members, and we help everyday investors secure hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity, all without wasting years of their life trying to figure it out the hard way. Making an uneducated decision on the biggest purchase in your life is just gambling with your future.
Stop it. Get some help.
And this isn't just another how to buy property course. Let's be clear though, this course isn't free. What? And neither should it be. This is our life's work. We've spent over 100 hours each on this course alone. Oh, babe. Okay, video number 3. Number 4 with million does... Fuck. Done. We've got decades of experience, millions of dollars in deals distilled into a repeatable process that you can take away for yourself. If you're looking for free advice, there's plenty of noise out there. You can go and find that if you'd like. But if you want real... actionable, step-by-step guided process that works in today's market, then this investment is going to change everything for you. By the time that you finish this course, you will have full confidence. You'll have every tool that you need to build an amazing portfolio if you act on it, right? Which is why we have mentoring built in. So we kick you up the butt to make sure that you're kicking your goals. So the real question is, how much longer are you going to watch everyone else making money in property before you jump in and start playing the property game properly? Because the sooner you start winning.
No cup of tea, but I'm disappointed with myself, but it's okay. So we are back. So I promised there'd be some hard-hitting property questions, Mr. Todd.
Yeah, let's
Joe,
rapid fire. I realize we're at an hour and 23 minutes, so I appreciate everyone.
That was hilarious. I especially the Michael Jordan bit. I love that. That's so good. You guys got like the friendly Geordies editing that for you, man. That was that funny as beautifully done.
Thanks, Thea.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. What I wanted to, I suppose there's the question, or not the elephant, but it's the age-old borrowing capacity. So how did an individual versus trust? Like, how did you kind of circumnavigate that situation in your own borrowing and lending?
Well, I didn't. I just kept adding value. So I had enough equity, saving deposits where I needed to. Actually, well, I didn't really save deposits, but I saved cash for like renovation expenses. So a lot of that was used from cash. Always buying like high yielding properties as well. So some of them were like yield on purchase now is just like out of this world for some properties. Like if you like take the very first one, I think that rents for $380 a week now. Like, and that was $62,000. Like, that's just stupid. Even like the first one, then so the second one, that was 110. That rents for something like $430 a week. So like they're huge. But it's because I also bought in towns and places where, and not just there, like even like in Logan, some of the places where people were like, well, that's dumb. You'll never make money there. But it did. It has. Like, and both from the market side of things, like we bought them well. Everything has really been bought very well. And then add value to it, and it's had market uplift. It's those three pillars that really need to be balanced correctly to actually make it work. So as far as the trust structure thing, I was late to the game with that, man. Like, I should have put the block of units in it. And we're actually going through a process now of actually restructuring, which is going to cost a bit of money. But otherwise, I negotiated that deal when I was in bed with COVID, like, because I knew it was a deal and I didn't want to let it go. And I was one of those people that, you know, people were like, oh, the spicy sneeze, and they're all fine. I got it bad. Like, I almost went to the hospital, and I remember being in bed and just thinking, oh, it's cool. I'll just do it and/or nominees. And I was so out of it. I forgot that you couldn't do and/or nominees in Queensland. Because,
I think it's only in South Australia or WA, maybe.
South Australia
and
you can also do it in Victoria as well. But then there's other complexities with that as well if you're going to be doing any kind of like development due diligence in between. But anyway, I won't get into that. Because of that, the first like proper corporate trust structure that's been set up, and even then it's got to be set up properly. The first couple of conversations I had, it was just from like generic content. And I'm glad I actually didn't on a few, because they wouldn't have been set up correctly. So now everything's like the Melbourne one, that's all through a trust structure. But that's obviously like negatively geared. Like that right now is it's a house alone in Melbourne. Until the granny flat's built, then that's what's going to then, through that actual strategy, turn that into something that's neutral to positive. But again, yeah, I was late to the party with it. If I didn't actually have so much value add and stronger yields, I wouldn't have been able to keep going.
So the only purchase that you have in the trust is the one that the most recent Reno flip. Melbourne.
Yep.
I mean, it's not flip, but it's so that doesn't even, like, I mean, that's $600,000 of your $6.3 million portfolio. So the trust didn't even come into it, really. Like, yeah, it's not even a consideration outside of now. That's very interesting.
So just to expand a little
Yeah.
bit before you ask the question there, Joe, was those first few years, I went back to live at home with mum. 3 years. I was a 31-year-old to 34-year-old living in mum's spare bedroom. Like I didn't have to. I could have more than afforded to not do that. But mum didn't really cook. So I was doing the cooking. She was pretty happy with that. And borrowing capacity
trade.
shot through the roof. Yeah.
Yeah. Super interesting. Sacrifice. I love that slingshot. I love that slingshot metaphor. I would like to start answering the sacrifice slingshot. I would like to answer some of the questions that have come up because I realize we are getting quite close to time, and I want to acknowledge the people that have spent it.
I like this one again. Sold the
Yeah.
shitty unit. That was for the purpose of deleting. I love how he says deleting. It's like it doesn't. It's now not there anymore. It's done. It's like backspace. A bad asset. Have you ever sold an asset to cash in those ships? I think the answer is probably no. But have you? No.
Yeah, that was the only one, and it was just because of that. But I'm not against selling. I just don't feel that we're there yet. So, like we've been talking about this, potentially buying another two in Melbourne, because I don't think Melbourne's like really the. It's like there's a bit of sizzle there, but I don't think it's actually started to get anywhere near a boil. Just while I'm on cooking metaphors.
His internet breaks. Oh, not breaks, but stops.
He's cooking up an internet storm. Yeah, I think I was chatting with someone actually just the other day, and they're like, "Hey, I'm a little bit concerned because I'm seeing Melbourne on every single podcast, and I feel like I've missed the boat." And I'm like, "Oh man, it is very hot now." Like Jeff and I were talking, like I'm pretty sure it was like 6 to 12 months ago. Like, I mean, actually, it might have been like 9 to 12 months ago. Like, buy. This is going to get ridiculous. The market is on fire at the moment right now. Like, it's so difficult to buy in Victoria. So what are your views on it, Todd? You're saying it's heating up quite a bit, so you want to get more in there?
Yeah, so what I was talking about though, but I think it's certain spots are really heating up and certain spots aren't as much just yet, because Melbourne, like you got to remember, it's a big market. Like it's not.
Goodness.
It's
huge.
It is markets within. It's markets within markets.
I don't think he's. Hopefully, he's not buying it back. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I won't say the name of that suburb. The one where he's back. You're back, Todd.
Yeah, back. Yeah, fucking back. Sorry, not annoyed with you guys. Just my internet provider. If where were we?
Oh no.
God. Anyway, okay. Let's just remove Todd from this call entirely. I think that might be the best bet. No.
This is what. Oh, sorry, mate. You go.
I'm about to lose my shit on a live. This is.
I feel like we need to edit this one. I think we need to edit
No. This is like the podcast I did with Scotty Agate and Jordan DeJong, where I literally just didn't speak for about half an hour because I was like, no, it's not working for me.
I'm so sorry, boys.
No. This has been amazing, man. What I do want to say. You go, Joe.
Go on then. What do you want to say, Jeff?
I want to give the plug because this has been more than how to build your ultimate, how to build your multi-million-dollar property portfolio. This has been the mindset and the steps. Has been advice if you're starting and for those sort of in the game. So give us that 5-star in Spotify team. We're almost at 50 now, so I want to get to 60. So before the end of July, let's get to 60 teams. So I'll drop that link. But Joe, I know I want to ask Toddy because somebody asked this. And we have asked this on the show. What is your current favorite pizza, Mr. Todd Sloan?
Just to answer the other question that I didn't when internet cutting out. So looking at buying another few, but then would more than likely sell down one once it goes through the cycle. Okay, that's
what in Victoria.
Question. Yeah, and most of that is just because I think buying like 4, 5, 6 in Victoria with land tax is a little bit tricky. So holding to a certain cap. Yeah.
So Darwin next show, is it?
Yeah, no, but I mean also like if you buy under different trusts, like that doesn't really come into the equation because unlike South Australia, I don't believe Victoria can look into the trusts in the same way. Don't get me wrong. But yes,
Yeah.
the more assets that you have, but also there is a negative cash flow component to that. So, gone are the days when like you can, gone are the days of 6% yields at double-digit capital growth. So there is an affordability of how much you can actually buy. But there's a reason that the Oz property portfolio has bought 5 properties and 4 of those are in Victoria. That's, I don't know if that says anything of what our views are on the.
That's why. I know. Go on. So Todd, your favorite current pizza?
Currently, what am I eating now? You know what? I actually had one the other day. We were in Melbourne, and it was across the road from a Domino's. And I haven't eaten Domino's in such a long time, but it was just because it was literally across the road. I got to say, it was the best. It was just a cheese Domino's with cheesy crust, doubled up on the cheese. But there was something special about the sauce. It was the best Domino's pizza I'd ever eaten in my life. I don't know if maybe it was just like a hard day at work. So like I could have just been given a box of crackers and I would have been amazed. But it was that's got to take the cake at the moment.
I'm amazed. You just admitted on a live where there's well in excess of 100 people still watching. And you Domino, I don't mind a Domino's either, to be honest. So
yeah, it's value.
Simple people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Maybe that's my West End draft in my dad.
In your bones.
Yeah.
So, Todd, this has been an amazing session. Thank you for being just every time you are the absolute nicest person in real estate. Like you are, and you're very busy and you're now a dad to Fred. So thank you for coming on. And Joe, take us out, man.
Do you want to?
Todd, how do we
get the coolest dude in the world? Just quickly.
Oh man! Oh geez,
he's my favorite person.
You want to have another one?
Yeah, he's very cute. How do we get more Todd Sloan in our life, mate? How do we do this? How do I put you in my earballs and just soak it all up?
Well, if you want to put me in your earballs, that can be something that's arranged with a flight and a little bit of personal time there, Joe. But if anyone else wants to, just go onto YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, search Pizza and Property. And yeah, we're releasing, I think it's 3 episodes a week.
Wow. Yeah, I love how you did that Reno, that Reno in 30 days, man. That is amazing. You did some fantastic work there, and it was really racing. I felt like I was almost watching The Amazing Race, kind of getting you did some excellent tip-top work getting that done.
That was good fun, and we're going to be releasing part 2 of that in the next few weeks as well. That project has been a massive eye-opener, and the little man has actually been the biggest thing. Like and you and I were I suppose we were chatting about this off air. There's so many things that we did wrong because we had Fred, but there's so many things that we're so happy about that we did because we had Fred with us, because otherwise it would have been so easy to justify just not doing anything. And now he's 7 months old, and it's like, okay, well, we'd still, I guarantee you, if we hadn't have bought it, we would have been like, oh, just wait a little bit longer. And I can see how people so easily go, wait a second, 5 years has just gone by. Oh, remember that thing the house we're going to buy for 500? Now it's 900,000. Holy shit, when did that happen? And so whilst there were sections of it that were very tricky and sections that we dropped the ball on because we underestimated doing it with a 3-month-old child. That was certainly complex. I'm so glad we did though, because now we know how to fix those things, but also even the really tricky things weren't that bad. And we can go again, we can do it again, and we can actually just keep building and hopefully teach him that this is the norm. This is what mum and dad do, and this is what you can do. And yeah, really, really looking forward to the part 2.
Yeah, nice. Maybe we have to bring you on to discuss. So subscribe and like and do all that jazz, because we'll get Toddy back to unpack his Reno and the mistakes he made while still making 100K plus from Reno, I think it was. So people are saying dude's an effing legend. I won't say that because it'll smash our been a pleasure, Todd. And somebody said, thank you, Todd Sloan. I've learned so much from your podcast. I've watched every single podcast. The Reno series is so good. People applaud it.
Podcast.
I have too. I have.
Incredible.
But that's probably not surprising. Unheard. I love the unheard. Yeah. Thanks for jumping on, Todd. And Joe.
Thank you, guys. I can't see all the other comments, but thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure being on, fellas.
Thank you very much for being here, Todd. Let's go buy a property. See you guys later. Have a great evening. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.